Alright everyone, hi! It's been a few weeks since we posted our last video, so we figured it's about time to give you an update about how our Defect character is going. Joining me today is Logan. Say hi, Logan.
Hey everybody.
And I'm Robert, and we will be taking a look at a Defect run, a recent Defect run, and seeing how it goes. Enjoy, everyone.
So Robert, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what we can be expecting with Defect. What is different with Defect than what we had to do with Silent?
So first of all, there's just all of the basic things that needed to be added. So there's a new character, that means a bunch of new cards, new relics, new powers, and what is maybe a little bit interesting with Defect is that for the first time, I'd say, we're actually making a bit more use of how the character is meant to be played. So with both Ironclad and Silent, we took a strategy of bash the enemy in the face until it is gone, and of course this works. But with Defect, we've actually integrated with the orb mechanic, and it's using them and playing around them. Does that make sense, Logan?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, the orb mechanic is obviously very crucial for Defect gameplay. You can definitely take a less orb-heavy strategy with Defect. I mean, we all know that Claw is law in the end. But the vast majority of Defect's strength lies in scaling powers along with clever use and timing of orbs and evoking orbs at the right time and knowing when to hold them. And that was the main challenge that we were trying to overcome with this character.
So yeah, we've got the orb mechanic in, so there's a lot of different things that need to be considered there. The evoking, holding. There's also the concept of random damage being dealt, which is something we hadn't needed to deal with yet. At the end of the turn, your lightning will strike something at random, or if you evoke, it'll also hit something at random. And so that's something we needed to teach the bot how to value and to play around. So basically, it values random damage, just not as highly as real actual damage. And if there's only one opponent, then it knows, okay, hey, random damage is the equivalent of real damage.
Yeah, so we never really needed to touch random damage in the past because the first two characters that we used have hardly any random damage to them. I think that the only random mechanics that are coming to mind are Sword Boomerang on Ironclad, and then with Silent, there's a couple of other things like random discard for it's the 10 damage discard one random card
Yeah.
that she has. But there isn't very much going on with random on those characters, so we were largely able to ignore it.
Something you mentioned, Logan, is that we're choosing when to evoke our orbs. I think I'm noticing that we're just throwing the dual casts out there as soon as we can. Is that correct?
For the most part, so the the way that the comparators work in battle, the comparators are basically when it looks at like the end of the state when it's played the entire hand. The main thing it's looking for still is damage done to the enemy. That is like one of the main priorities that the bot has because that's the win condition that it knows. And so most of the time, what Defect sees is that it's going to be getting, what would that be, 13 more damage by playing a 1 or 0 cost card in dual cast when there's a lightning orb there, as opposed to if it didn't play it. And
Right.
in general, it really likes the idea of having more damage done for very little energy. So it doesn't think necessarily like multiple turns in advance. It just looks at, hey, this is the best situation that we can find for this turn is by using dual cast. And if you've played really any amount of Defect, you probably have run into that also on your own, that struggle on, hey, should I be getting a little bit of extra damage now, or should I be holding it for later? And the bot just tends to be very impatient.
It actually seems to work out quite nicely in the hallway fights, at least.
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually something that you can probably learn from this sort of very simple algorithm that we have running the bot here, is that for the most part, things like bias cognition or evoking your orbs early. In hallway fights, like it really is about, hey, this shouldn't be lasting more than just a couple of turns most fights, and the upfront loaded damage is really really important. So getting a lot of that into your deck in Act One, like our defect uh, strategy here does, is very very useful.
Oh, good. Um, we've also picked up bias cognition, so we're going to be able to see how that fares. And like, of course, I think we're not going to want to play that too early. Can you talk about that a bit? As we played
Uh,
very early.
yes. Well, I mean, to be fair, if you're thinking about, okay, maybe not directly this fight, because sometimes the avocado monster here, the fights can be very long. But in most hallway fights, you're not going to be going more than like 5 turns. Otherwise, you're going to be having problems anyways. And so it's almost always correct to just play a bias cognition, get the power boost immediately. But we do need to be very wary of that on longer fights, specific elites, or namely like the Act 2 and Act 3 bosses. So we have a bit of a different handler for those so that they can be a bit more mindful of scaling and also holding high impact cards to not use them while the boss is still at like 400 health.
So we wait until it's a bit weaker, and then like, okay, now we can probably finish them off now.
Yeah, I forget what HP percentage we actually put that in at the end. I think we hard coded it somewhere.
Hmm.
But it does understand the artifact mechanic with bias cognition, which I assume most of you, our viewers, would know this already. But if you don't, it is one of the best defect life hacks that is available, and that is that the focus down debuff that you get from bias cognition can be blocked by an artifact. So if you are able to get one of those 2 or 3 cards that exist for blocking artifacts. Defect has one rare attack card that does it. There's also Panacea in the store. Or if you're able to pick up like Orange Pellets or Clockwork Souvenir. I think those are the two store artifacts that do the best at it. Then all of a sudden, Bias Cognition just becomes a huge power boost, even more so, and is a very good solution for your long-term fights, because you can just use it like pretty much right out of the gate and get loads of focus and not have to deal with any of the downsides. So our character does know about that. I don't know if we're going to use it in this run because I've never seen this run before. Um, but yeah, it definitely looks to see if it's able to get that focus boost without getting the debuff by playing those artifacts or cleanses in the right order.
We had a fun bug with that for a while, actually. Um, the way the bot values plays in battle is by checking, okay, how does this change the game state, and is this a desirable new game state? So like, the HP of the enemy is lower than it is in this other game state. That's cool. We take that path then. But this doesn't quite work for more longer term planning. Like, okay, it's good if I have this power in play. It doesn't directly have an impact on the state, except you have this power in play. And so we maintain a list of, okay, these are powers we like, these are powers we don't like, and so these are the things we try to get into play or not. Good win, by the way.
Definitely.
And for a while we had an issue with biased cognition artifact, because artifact was a power we knew we liked. And
Oh,
so
right.
we would intentionally play the artifact card after we played bias cognition, so that we would so we'd have artifacts in the game state at least
Oh, I
a
had
little longer.
forgotten about this. Yeah. Yeah, so there we were valuing the powers that we like more than the powers that we dislike, and so having them was
Oh,
the priority. It's like, no, we want that artifact for the future. They'll be so useful. And
yes.
yep, that was a problem. Um, yeah, clever usage of artifacts is actually a really important thing to know on Defect, I think. I mean, on any character it is, but yeah, specifically because of the way that bias cog works. Yeah, it's very important for Defect scaling.
In fact, playing powers at all is a bit of a new thing for us on Defect, right? For on Silent, we only were playing accuracies to get the shift damage up.
Yeah, well, I think that we had a few others in there, like, um, yeah, obviously we had like Wraith Form and a couple others that we'd use in our silent strategy, but they were all based off of, hey, what does playing this power give me this turn? And just in general, playing those powers, those turns are very useful, so we didn't have to add in extra logic. But with Defect, it's almost always that playing a power in that one turn is not going to help you more that one turn than not playing the power and playing something else. Um, and so we have to start thinking differently with scaling on Defect. We didn't do that entirely. We came up with some like partial solutions that work, but I feel that Defect probably has the largest amount of potential for scaling compared to any of the other characters. Of course, if you're discounting infinites and all that, and that means that Defect probably has the largest amount of potential for us as well to improve on these scaling topics, just because there's so many ways to make Defect extremely effective.
One of the things that's required for Defect to be effective, of course, is clever card pickups. The way we've explained how we do card pickups in the past is we've got a list of prioritized lists, and we pick up cards assuming we don't have too many of a specific card already in our deck. But we did something a little different for Defects. Could you explain that a bit, Logan?
Yeah, sure. So basically, with all of the other characters, we would just say, hey, here's the 25 cards you want in your deck, or something like this, and try to build a deck that's reminiscent of this. But with Defect, it's much more helpful to be fluid with your deck, so that you can kind of be saying, hey, we need some upfront damage to be able to survive Act 1, so just pick any of these upfront damage cards to start, and then once you know that you can survive Act 1, okay, now let's start building your scaling powers, now let's start building your defense, because if you just try to build those things directly from the early game, you're going to die to the Act 1 elites, to the Act 1 boss, or the early Act 2 elites so often. Um, and so yeah, we had to make it a little bit more dynamic here for Defect to be able to do that. So now we basically have these card clusters, where we say like you have an initial cluster which would basically be upfront damage, and then once you've achieved that, then it moves on to the next cluster where it's trying to build more scaling and that sort of thing. And then, of course, some cards that are just always good to pick up, like Bias Cognition. It'll look for no matter what and prioritize that over what the other temporary priorities it may have are.
All right. You mentioned a strategy earlier that is very dear to my heart, Logan. Claw is law.
Mm-hmm. It is, isn't it?
It is. I just can't help but notice we haven't picked up any claws here.
Have we been offered any?
I don't know. I wasn't. I was focused on the conversation, not on watching the game here. Actually.
Ah, I see. Well, if there was a claw offered us and we did not pick it up, then we know that we have a great moral failing as Slay the Spire players and programmers here.
I think I have a solution for this.
What would that solution be?
Posting a video of us explicitly following the law.
Dun dun dun.
I think that's one we could do next.
I think that is one that we will do next, and we may even have that strategy already built. It's also a fun one to watch.
Just
Unlike
like this matching
our
game.
card picking, yes, the match game. I think that I saw in the changelog that the match game got fixed sometime in the last year or so, um, through the communication mod from
Oh,
ForgottenArbiter. Like,
really?
I'm pretty sure that it got fixed by now, so we actually could implement it if we wanted.
I don't want to.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of work for some random cards, but
Sometimes when I'm watching a run, we manage to pick up uh, 2 or 3 cards in a row, like very
mhm,
rarely.
yeah,
It's very frustrating because we usually do not want those cards.
that's true. Yeah, we do have a lot of the cards implemented for the characters by now because, picking them up from random places or potions or whatever, it's always good for the characters to know how to play them. But there still are a few that we don't know how to play, or if we do, we don't know how to play them well. And that's, yeah, that always makes it a little bit risky. I would like to point out now how much block defect is accruing
Hmm.
because of calipers, and it likes stocking up block. It says this is a good thing, it makes it happy.
Hmm.
So,
Makes me happy too.
yeah, it's also fun to just see like the card spam, like generating all of these frost orbs, and yeah. Oh,
Oh,
we didn't pick up the claw.
yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So this is the subpar defect strategy.
Yeah, we'll fix that in the next video.
Yeah.
Yeah, get him. Um, so an example of a card we don't know how to use yet, and is not really relevant for this strategy. Um, but an example of a card we don't know how to use yet is hologram or seek.
Mm,
And these
true.
are complicated because suddenly you have the choice of which cards to take is greatly increased.
Indeed. Yeah, most anything that involves deck manipulation we've not been able to implement well yet, which is really a shame with Defect because, yeah, Hologram, Seek, to some extent even Rebound, these can all be very iconic cards for Defect to be making sure that you get the right cards into your hand at the right time. And especially Seek for your deck acceleration. Like, that's one of the best cards that you can find with Defect by far. And it definitely feels like we're gimping the character, unfortunately, because we haven't found a good way to implement it. But if you recall from our silent video, we started running into large performance issues when we were implementing specifically Shivs. Just because the amount of cards they were adding into the hand, it was creating so many different paths that had to be calculated. Like, we're talking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of paths. And so the moment that you start saying, hey, you also can be searching at any point through the discard pile or the draw pile to be playing cards that you want as well, you easily can be talking about the bot sitting there for 5 to 10 minutes on a single turn, trying to figure out what's the optimal play. So for right now, that is still a limitation where we don't see Defect fully unlocked.
Did you see how patient we were with the bias cognition there?
I did. That's honestly the proper way to be patient if you can versus Awakened One, so good job. Well done.
We didn't always know about, or rather the bot didn't always know about the second phase.
That was also a bug that we resolved in this with Defect as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, you don't want to play certain cards in the first phase.
Mm-hmm. I only now realize that we have a choker. Um, I like seeing matches like this where there's choker or some sort of other limitation on the play, because then you
Hmm.
get to see the bot work around that and play a little bit differently when it only has a certain amount of card plays. And even so, it still got the win.
I saw in the top corner there that we'd apparently have been talking for 20 minutes already, Logan.
Apparently. Well, I mean, defect runs can take a while. This is true.
Yep. Looking at my list of things we wanted to talk about, I think we've covered everything. Do you have
Yeah.
anything still on your mind?
We might want to mention our current win rate that we're having with defect and what we're planning to do next.
Yeah, so last set of runs I did, where I did about 50 runs, we had a win rate of about 30%. This is on par with Silent. We have actually seen higher win rates from Defect in some older evaluation runs, but that's our current win rate. We'll probably post a video of Defect and Claw gameplay soon, I think. That is something I'd be interested in. So I assume everyone else is interested in this as well. And after that, we will round off the fourth character and show off what we can do with Watcher. And Logan, bit of a spoiler already, it's pretty nice.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Cool. Then that was all from us for today. Thank you everyone for watching. In case none of this made any sense, please check out some of the other videos on the channel. They'll explain some of the things we didn't go into today. Thank you all for watching. Leave a comment in case you have something on your mind, and have a good rest of your day. Bye everyone.
See everyone.